in a deck, this is exactly what you're going to see here. What I love about the Pumpkin Kings in general is it's just a very nice rank 6 extension play. And we're about to see, it looks like Jordan is going to be going first.
Yeah, and they start with an ectoplasmatic fortification, as you mentioned.
Yes. The artwork on this one is absolutely stunning. A direct steal from the manga. Looks incredible. And it is the Pumpkin King infecting those monsters and bringing them back to life. And this card on activation, as long as you control no monsters, will allow you to add a level 6 zombie monster or a Call of the Forgotten. So the monster that we choose to take is Stare of the Snake Hair.
And Stare discards itself to add a Call of the Haunted or a Spell and Trap that mentions it. So we're going to be seeing... Which one got added there?
Yeah, so on this one, we were able to add... Technically, the Time Wizard-esque card effect being the Vortex of Time. And this one's really important because when your opponent activates a normal or a quick play spell card or its effect or a monster effect, while you control a zombie monster and Call of the Haunted, very important, your opponent tosses a coin and their activated effect becomes the following. If it's heads, your opponent must banish one monster they control, being us, the Pumpkin King player. If it's tails, they, as the player flipping the coin, must banish all monsters they control.
So that is a very powerful interaction, and we're going to be seeing here the main card that names the deck, the Pumpking of the King Grave Ghosts, which has been referred by the community as the Zombie Habakiri, because it does review itself and basically sets up the whole play. So what does it do?
So this is the one that's going to be able to get you direct access to Call of the Haunted, but if that wasn't enough, you can actually activate that Call of the Haunted the exact same turn. So in able to do so, you basically reveal the Pumpkin, the King of Grave Ghosts, set the Call of the Haunted, discard a card being the Pumpkin King itself, and in doing so, you can then activate the Call of the Haunted, bringing back the Pumpkin of the Grave King Ghost from the graveyard, and then special summon a level 6 zombie monster directly from the deck, but it cannot have 1,950 attack. You are locked into special summoning from the hand or graveyard except zombies, and that's very, very important. But really, when you're playing an Odeon strategy, and the benefit and the hybrid between the two is that your Call of the Haunted is a face-up continuous trap card. It's going to give you a lot of interactions here.
So the monster got summoned as another copy of Stare, I believe, right?
Correct,
so it's just going to be used here as an XYZ material to make... Is that a Wallow?
So this is Wallow, yeah. So Wallow's a very, very good card on this one because we're going to be trying to manipulate the graveyard in one way or another. Looks like that David is just reading this one now to kind of make this up. So monsters you control gain 100 attack and defense for each card in your opponent's graveyard. Well... Burning Abyss love to put cards in their graveyard. It does have a quick effect to target one card in your opponent's graveyard. You either detach 1 or 2 cards from it and then activate the appropriate effect. If you detached 1, you get to return it to the deck. If you detach 2, you special summon it face up or face down in defense position to your field, which is actually really quite important when you're talking about Burning Abyss.
Yeah, so this card was really really relevant in Tier Elements format. So in issues with Tier Elements, people started playing a lot of Bestial, so they would make Wallow as a way of interrupting Tier Elements grave effects. That also interacts with the Burning Abyss effect here. So you can target, for example, the target of the Seer to reborn from graveyard. But as David starts his turn, we're going to see Jordan activate one of the Odeon traps.
Yeah, so this is going to be the Apophis Serpent. This one is going to get us direct access into the other Apophis, the deity. This is going to be our negation. So the Swamp Deity allows you to negate cards equal to the number of face-up continuous trap cards you currently control, except itself. So we already have Call of the Haunted, and then we'll have Apophis, the Serpent as well. So this is going to be a very powerful negate too. But the question kind of comes when you're looking at Burning Abyss, they kind of don't mind that themselves.
Yeah, it depends how you start, right? So sometimes if you start special summoning the Burning Abyss, it's not as bad. But if your turn involves normal summoning a Tour Guide or a Fiendish Rhino Warrior, there's those cards you really don't want to get negated because then you control a monster that's not a Burning Abyss, and if you special summon a Burning Abyss monster, it's gonna, by game mechanics, be sent to the graveyard.
Yep, exactly that. And just taking a quick look into David's play here. Well, there you go. You've called it directly. Starting off with that Tour Guide, I think Jordan will instantly want to interact here with this one, trying to turn that Tour Guide off. We probably don't... You don't want to be using, in an ideal world, the Swamp Deity here because you will negate 2. So an infinite permanence, which makes complete sense. So that's some of the point allocation used up there for Jordan because that would be a set 15 points, I believe. So you can kind of see how everything else, like Call of the Haunted, the Apophis trap cards themselves, aren't exactly point heavy either.
Yeah, and now it puts David in a pretty hard position. He's going to try to go into the battle phase to attack with the tour guide into the wallow because he needs to clear his field of non-burning abyss names. And that's a very good position for Jordan to be in because now they are confident the game will come back to them.
Yeah, exactly that. So for those of you unfamiliar with how Burning Abyss work, you can use either of their effects, but only once per turn. So you can reveal them in the hand as long as you control no set spells and or just no spells and trap cards at all, special on them to the field. But then you won't get their sent graveyard effects. And usually the way that you would do this is you're kind of trying to overlay into Dante, the Traveler of the Burning Abyss here, and try to get cards sent from the deck to the graveyard. And it looks like David is going to reveal a Scarm.
A blast from the past, isn't it? So Scarm is one that when you reveal, all of them have the same effect on reveal. Scarm's graveyard effect is that if you haven't used the effect to reveal, so it's not relevant this turn, you get to add a level 3 Dark Fiend monster from your deck to your hand at the end phase. So a very common thing is that you went Tour Guide for Scarm, and you search like another copy of Tour Guide for follow-up. But here we'll see David just, especially in the Scarm in defense position, it has 2000 defense, and setting 2 cards to his back row.
Yeah, exactly that. And they always used to kind of be a very, very scary thing with Burning Abyss sometimes as well, because what it kind of developed over time is it went from being a very hyper-aggressive style of deck that it wanted to go into Dante's, because what made Dante so good is that when it excavated or milled those free cards from the top of the deck, it became a lot stronger, and then usually it could push through for an OTK. Over time, the deck started to develop into more of a control-style-S deck. It started to utilize cards like Torrential Tribute because there wasn't really a negative for clearing your monsters off your own field, as they would all trigger their effects in the graveyard and kind of float back.
Yeah.
You also get to utilize cards like Fiend Griefing, which are other ways of being able to send your Burning Abyss cards from the deck to the grave, and that would then just trigger their graveyard effects to give you more advantage.
Yeah, as well as discard traps have always been a big part of Burning Abyss like strategy. Before Phoenix Wing Wind Blast and Regeki Break. After its release, Pelos like Dynamiscus is a card that has a lot of synergy because it has an effect in the graveyard, so it can summon itself back. But we're going to see how Jordan handles this. The Apophis is a really good card because he was kind of checking the trap cards from the potential trap cards from David's side. But I think it's going to be flipped here as trying to proactively develop the board.
Yeah, I think at this point here, Jordan is probably going to be pushing in for as much damage as possible. It could also symbolize that there isn't much more recursion, but I believe what we're going to end up playing is the fusion monster, possibly, for the Apophis cards themselves, which will allow you to recycle both the Apophis Serpent and the Deity. So you put the aggression through now, do as much damage as you possibly can, and then reset them to go again for the next turn, setting you up with 2 Swamp Deity interactions and a good old blast from the past being Breakthrough Skill.
That's such a Burning Abyss card because it's a trap card with a graveyard effect. So we're going to be seeing the Breakthrough Skill be activated on the Wallow here?
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting because I suppose what you might want to be stopping if you're Jordan is you would attack to destroy the Scarm, put it to the graveyard, and then use the Wallow to return it back to the deck so that it can't resolve its effect in the end phase, which would kind of starve David of a bit of resource here, which is probably what he's trying to achieve to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to see that David looks like he's reading Breakthrough Skill too, Jordan, on this one. I always remember Breakthrough Skill from, exactly like you said, the Burning Abyss days, the Duelist Alliance format, just ways of kind of being able to negate, and then like you said, because it has that graveyard effect as well, these were days before Infinite Impermanence, and just being able to get double usages off of the back of trap cards like this, and even lost wins, was very, very good.
Yeah, it's actually something that might be pretty relevant here, because he gets to use a Breakthrough Skill at this turn, so it doesn't the Scarm doesn't get shuffled. But what also happens is during David's next turn, the way that Breakthrough Skill works is a trap card. It's a quick effect in the graveyard. So he is able to use Breakthrough Skill as a response to the Wallow on his turn. So he gets like this flexibility of basically negating the Wallow on his turn and on Jordan's turn.
Yeah, exactly.
And he gets to resolve the Burning Abyss effect, which is his deck is trying to do here. But we're going to see the Apophis continue the attack on the Scarm. There's no replay because no monsters change on the field. How much attack does the trap have?
So the Apophis Swamp Deity has 2,200 attack. It's actually a very, very strong trap card.
You don't associate trap monsters.
Sorry, 2,200 defense to 200 attack. So I'm not too sure how it's getting past scale.
I think the Wallow reduces attack, right?
Yes, sorry, you're right.
I think that is the reason of the Breakthrough Skill now.
Yes, right. Okay, that makes more sense now.
Because the Wallow, I think, reduces 100 per card in the graveyard.
Correct, yeah. We literally just read that one out. So monsters you control gain 100
Oh, so they,
attack
a monster
defense to
control
each.
gain.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Okay, so they would have been up to it would have been up to 2200. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna see the Wallow then attack over the Skarm and attack directly with the other Apophis trap.
Yeah, so this one I believe is 1800.
You never associate trap monsters with big attacks.
No,
but
no.
here
They're usually a little bit scarce on that kind of factor. Yeah,
So-
1600.
oh, it says it's a retrain. It's a retrain of the original Apophis,
yeah,
right?
correct. I keep getting their defenses and attacks switched around.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be very surprised if Jordan doesn't choose to fusion summon and exactly recycle these cards. That's going to give them a bit more resource to kind of push for as well. So going into the Divine Serpent Apophis, must be special fusion summon or special summon by tributing 2 Apophis monsters, and you get to target up to 3 Apophis trap cards with different names in your graveyard and set them.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, if a trap card is activated once per turn, you get to target a card your opponent controls and destroy it.
Yeah, and that's really good here because then they get to set both traps back, and one of them is going to set another trap.
Correct.
And you kind of just start amassing this critical mass of advantage that Dave is going to have to interact with during his turn. So they added both back, and I assume they just shuffled and set 2 cards, which might be anything. They might even be Apophis traps.
Keeping David on the edge there, not knowing exactly what we're going to be looking for. And we do remember to resolve Skarm in the end phase. This was one very big thing during that format, was always forgetting to resolve Skarm in the end phase. And we are seeing Skarm resolve here now. Kind of Jordan contemplating whether they want to interact with this.
Yeah.
I mean, in an ideal world, you kind of want to do that. You want to stop that resource. And I feel that if there is an interaction from Jordan here to stop that Skarm resolving, it could signify the end of duel number 1.
Yeah.
Just having a look of one of the spell cards that Jordan has set. And there we go. Here's the Vortex. So this is going to be very, very interesting to see how this one tries to resolve. So as long as they activate when you have a normal or a quick play spell card. When your opponent activates a normal or a quick play spell card or effect of a monster while you control a zombie and Call of the Haunted, which we do in the form of Wallow and Call of the Haunted, it's going to be a very big risk because either they banish all monsters they control, or Jordan is going to banish one card they can. Banish one monster they control.
Yeah, but it's always going to interact. It transforms the effect, right? So the effect
correct.
becomes,
Correct.
So basically, it's always a negate for the Skarm, and then it has 50% chance of ending with Jordan having to banish one of the monsters, or Dave do to banish all the monsters he controls, which in this case is nothing.
Yeah.
But it's basically a very convoluted call by the grave in this context.
I think you kind of take that. I feel with the 2 cards, the 2 monsters that Jordan has on the field, I would possibly get rid of the Willow. Maybe. I mean, it sounds a little bit risky.
Yeah.
I just feel that the breakthrough skill will answer any of the 2 monsters that are left on the field here.
Yeah.
So the hopes are that the Vortex resolves and they would banish the monsters they control.
Yeah.
Ooh, here's the Fiend Grieving.
So this is a card that's probably really interesting in this matchup. Fiend Grieving, for those not familiar, because this card hasn't been played in a good minute, it has the effect of targeting a card in your opponent's graveyard or a monster. I don't remember.
Target a
monster opponent's graveyard. You shuffle it into the deck, and then you send a Fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard. So this is really good in Burning Abyss because it's basically a way of triggering all your effects.
Yeah.
So you can send like Burning Abyss Graph, which then summons another Burning Abyss. Or it's been commonly used to send Absolute King Backjack.
Yes.
And Backjack is a card that's really cool because it allows you to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and basically put them in any order. And then if you banish it, you can just set a card from the top of your deck if it's a normal trap card, which seems to be the strategy he's using here. Ooh, but I have a Ghost Spell.
Ghost Spell. Very, very good there on Ghost Spell, being able to kind of neutralize that Fiend Grieving. I think we're just resolving the chain backwards now, so we
going to
probably should be a coin.
You can just use a dice, right? You just say
odds and evens,
odds and evens.
Possibly.
I think tournament policy you have to use a dice actually.
Oh really?
Yeah, because it's more consistent than tossing a coin.
Tossing a coin.
You could be a very good coin tosser.
Double-sided coin.
But we're gonna see.
Okay, so it looks like that it became banish one monster that Jordan controls. So we banished the Wallow on that one.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the right choice, considering that there's nothing more that David has in the graveyard right now. It's really going to be coming. They're just confirming that the Skarm effect becomes that banish one. I don't think there's more. So it looks like David's got the Backjack in the hand.
Yeah, Backjack's a card I never really want to draw it unless you have like a way to discard it, like Dynamiscus.
Ooh, is that a Libic?
That is a. Is it a Calcub or Libic? I think it's a Calcub.
I think you're right. I think it's a cow cab. Yeah, it's the cow cab.
So cow cab is one of the old school Burning Abyss that when it's sent to the graveyard, you get to return a spawn trap from a set spawn trap from the field to the hand. But Burning Abyss is known for needing 2 Burning Abyss to get to play the game, right? Special BA, make Dante. And it doesn't look like David has 2 Burning Abysses here, because we see the Absolute King Backjack and a copy of Cow Cab.
Yeah, the other card in the hand looks like it's Mutiny in the Sky, which is a great little option for this deck, because this one will allow them to fusion summon any Fiend or Fairy monster from the extra deck. You shuffle from the graveyard back into deck, so it lets you regain resource. Yeah. But with Jordan playing this very, very well and starving David of any graveyard resource whatsoever, that's not really coming to light. And it looks like they've played it very well here, because we've been able to use the Apophis deity to destroy...
there's a set Backjack, right?
Correct, yeah.
But then we're going to see the Absolute King Backjack trigger here. And this deck is always being terrified because there's some very high impact trap cards. And Backjack generates this weird scenario where you can set a trap during the middle of a chain. So a common thing back in the day is that someone would activate on the fact that would summon a monster. Let's say you activate, I don't know, Monster Reborn, targeting a monster. You could chain Absolute King Backjack to flip the card on top of your deck, and if it's like a Torrential Tribute, you'd be able to set the Torrential Tribute, and then when they resolve their Monster Reborn, you'd then be able to Torrential Tribute Resolution. And you never had a window to interact with the Spell Trap card.
Yeah. So it looks like we're looking at the 3 monster, or the 3 cards on top deck. And
that is a Torrential Tribute!
It's a Torrential Tribute! You've called that perfectly. I think this is going to be quite interesting, though, because Jordan still has... I believe 2 Swamp Deities set along the Spell and Trap zones. David is currently on 5,000 life points. I feel we may have the direct answer on whatever Backjack does put into the field of play.
Yeah, and Swamp Deity is not once per turn, so right? So you're able to, even if like they have to activate one of the Swamp Deities to put enough damage on the field, you'll still be able to use the second copy to then negate the Torrential Tribute.
Yeah. The one big thing about the Swamp Deity is that it is during the main phase only.
Oh, okay.
So if David... I mean, you can't really trigger the Torrential Tribute during the battle phase because nothing would be summoned.
There's a possibility of Jordan trying to use the Swamp Deity to summon in the battle phase, right? Oh no, they can. Sorry.
Yeah. So you're probably going to be seeing the Divine Serpent being switched to attack mode here, the Apophis, the Serpent being switched to attack mode here. At that particular moment in time, there will be a total of 2,800 plus 1,600, so 4,400, and it's just getting that last 800 attack damage on the field to kind of push it through.
Yeah, but we do see an Anubis being activated here, and that might be signifying like one of the end of the times here.
Yeah.
Because Anubis the Last Judge allows you to search for the Man of the Mark, and the Man of the Mark is like the advantage engine for the Zorian deck.
I think this is quite important actually for David to see. I mean, you could have taken a very educated guess that they were on the Man with the Mark, but prior to that, you would have only have seen the Apophis trap card, so he could have thought that Jordan was on just a hybrid using only the Apophis trap cards themselves alongside the Pumpkins. But I feel that we're definitely in this position now that all Jordan really needs to do is bait out the Backjack. Or not even really worry about it, because at the moment there should be enough damage on the field to clinch this duel.
Yeah, whatever card the Backjack flips, I think the deity kind of checks. I guess this kind of one scary scenario is like if it's in the battle phase, you're kind of maybe afraid of like a Mirror Force or Quaking Mirror Force because you wouldn't be able to activate it. Drowning Mirror Force is a card that Burning Abyss used to play. If everyone has been hit by this one Drowning Mirror Force in their lives, that they're like, oh, damn.
Stop putting monsters in defense mode during the battle phase, prior to the battle phase.
Yeah, I'm gonna play around it. I'm gonna swap some stuff. And this is the kind of gameplay patterns that you get to see in Genesys, and that's really interesting because it reminds of like Time Wizard, right? That's a very big thing. Time Wizard as well. But Jordan's going through the motions here.
I think we've really much established advantage here on this one. And we're just going to go straight in for the Circuits. This is going to get us direct access to the Temple of the Kings. This is going to allow us to activate one set trap card that has been set that turn. But also, it does give you another body on the field that is going to be 2,500 attack as well, which can pretty much, if this duel wasn't already over the line, kind of push it there.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's giving David the knowledge that they play Nibiru the Primal Being, as Nibiru the Primal Being was a card that was banished to summon the circuit.
Yes.
So that does give him some knowledge for the next game of like, okay, like I need to be aware of this when doing my Burning Abyss turn 1. Because back in the day when Burning Abyss was playable, Nibiru was on a card.
No. And I suppose if anything you could do against Burning Abyss is if you put a monster on their field that is not Burning Abyss monster, none of the Burning Abyss monsters really stick to the field.
Yeah, and in Genesys format, it's really important to recognize what cards your opponent's playing because they won't be playing all of the same hand interactions. So once you recognize which ones they're playing game 1, you can adapt for that post side deck games.
Yeah, I think that's really important because exactly like you've said, because you're not playing the standard kind of hand interactions that you would expect, like Ash Blossom's Drolls. I mean, we saw Infinite Impermanence, but even like Dominus Purges, Dominus Impulses, they are going to be the odd cards that you might not have even remembered are in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That can really, really catch you off guard. Yeah. I think David's just making the final calculation here of figuring out, okay, the damage is there. Are we going to try and bait? Yeah, it looks like we're going to use the backjack and try and bluff this one. Because keep in mind, Jordan doesn't know the card that's on the top of the deck, but I think we're about to.
Yeah, because it does excavate, right? So they will have knowledge. It's like, oh, Torrential Tribute. I think that's like a warning to, hey, do you want to summon again? Please?
Yeah, please summon, please.
Yeah. One card that would be cool here, it wouldn't work because of the Apophis, is Needle Sealing.
Yes.
Needle Sealing has been one of the cards that has existed in those like Paleozoic / Burning Abyss decks because they have this backjack interaction where you just like manifest a board wipe out of the backjack. We're probably going to be seeing Jordan taking here game 1.
Yeah, I think David just said there. And going to play in David's favor right now is we're going to see. I'd be amazed if David doesn't play us a little bit quite control. And we look like we see Fiendish Rhino in the hand there, which is like a really great addition. Because what Fiendish Rhino will allow them to do, as we previously mentioned, is it means that their Burning the Best monsters won't kind of self-implode once they enter the field of play.
Yeah, so he started the normal one to finish Rhino Warrior here. Basically has a continuous effect that says Fiend monsters you control can be destroyed by card effects.
Correct.
And that basically means that even if he special summons a Burning Abyss, it will not destroy itself. And it has an effect that when it gets sent to the graveyard, you get to send any Fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard. So it is basically like a Joker here of, okay, which Burning Abyss effect do I want? Do you want the Seer? Do you want a Graph? Do I want one of the new ones? We're going to see the Seer being special summoned here, which is not what you usually want to do because you want to use the Graveyard effect. So now that he has used Seer in hand, he's not able to use its effect to reborn a Burning Abyss monster.
Yeah, I feel that we might hold that Seer possibly for the next turn. I could be wrong, but I feel that we might see overlay into the good old-fashioned Dante, Traveler of the Burning Abyss.
Yeah, take me back.
Taking it back. And then we're probably going to detach. I would personally say the Fiendish Rhino here, because you're going to get the mill free from the top of the deck, and then obviously the send an additional one. And the best thing about Dante is it detaches as cost, which is quite powerful on this one to guarantee exactly what was going to happen here.
One of the main qualities of the Burning Abyss deck is that it was very sticky.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to interact with Burning Abyss because you have the Dante that ends with a Seer under it, like in this scenario.
Ooh, 2!
And a Scarm! Oh!
So this is
Take me back again.
Yeah, this is what I love about cards like Dragon's Mind. So as we mentioned, cards like trap cards that have effects in the graveyard, so you get maximum advantage even if they are milled off of one of your main strategies. So with Dante having directly 2,500 defense, we now have direct access to Dragon's Mind, which is a counter trap card that by paying 2,500 life points, you get to reset it back on the field. It does get banishment leaves the field, but we've just seen that there's a second copy in the graveyard anyway.
That's a card Burning Abyss would have loved to have back in the day.
I can imagine.
This is one of our recent cards. We have really cool synergy here, and we basically trigger 3 effects of our Dante. So you don't need Pot of Greed if Dante hits 3 effects. That's better. That's 3. But we're going to see the Fiendish Rhino Warrior sending a Fiend monster here. The good chance it's a Graph.
Yeah, I think Graph would be a sensible choice here.
That is a Graph. So Graph, when it gets sent to the graveyard, gets to special summon a Burning Abyss monster from your deck. Usually that would be Seer, but we already have access to Seer.
Maybe a far to possibly disrupt the level 6s that enter the field of play.
Yeah. There is... there's not a Burning Abyss, Boyo.
No, it looks like a Burning Abyss.
Yeah, but there's no actual new Burning Abysses,
So there's Runic if you wanted to try and go... Rubik, sorry, if you want to go down a Synchro route.
Yeah.
You've got Barbar if you wanted to do a little bit of burn damage. We've got the spells and traps actually might be quite useful in the form of the Calcab.
Yeah, I guess Scarm here is good because he will trigger the Scarm at this end phase because he milled one, and then he has a Scarm to trigger the next time it goes to the graveyard. And kind of Burning Abyss is just known for this resource loop. Seer Dante has been this thing for a while where when Dante is sent to the graveyard, he gets to add back a Burning Abyss monster, and Seer gets to reborn a Burning Abyss. So Dante adds here, Seer reborns Dante,
And constantly keep going.
and you just
going
keep rolling.
Going. Yeah.
Keep going and going and going.
But I think this is where it's going to be quite interesting here, because you're going to really simplify this game state. Just having this counter trap card set already, get that resource, and it looks like we're going to be adding 2 more set spells or traps to David's Enfield here, which could really kind of give Jordan a taste of their own medicine, I guess.
Yeah.
In the first one, we saw a lot of spell and trap control, and now we're going to see a bit more spell and trap control from David directly.
Yeah, and as we know, it's probably traps. It's Burning Abyss. That's what they do.
Yeah, it looks like, well, it might even be free, but I believe you want to keep 1 card in the hand for the Dynamiscus.
Oh, but you get to search one with Scarm. So a very
true,
known
yeah.
interaction on these decks is that you basically get to set your whole hand and you search a card with Scarm that generates advantage. So, for example, by searching here in the end phase, searching a copy of Graph with Scarm, you get to discard this Graph for the Dynamiscus, and then you get to trigger. Also, hitting the Dragon's Mind is really important there because it protects his spells and traps.
Yep.
So from cards like Evenly Matched or Twin Twisters that we've seen that Jordan plays, there is an inbuilt defense here. So that's a very cool recognition that Dragon's Mind. Usually we're known for using Dragon Mind for the attack, but here the Dragon's Mind defense is being relevant.
I think one other thing that's actually quite relevant that might come up is Lava Golem has 2,500 defense. So if you were to Lava Golem this field here, not that saying that you would want to, but if you were, thinking that you could possibly turn off that trap card, you actually still keep it live.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Oh, we do see him going for a Farfa here. So that's another play that is known for Burning Abyss, which is when you discard a Farfa with a discard trap, you basically get 2 interrupts because you get your Dynamiscus, one of them, and Farfa, when it gets sent to the graveyard, gets to target a monster in the field, banish it into the end phase.
Yeah.
Oh, when we do see Twin
Twisters
Twisters
at the start.
Discarding
Call of
card.
Haunted. I mean, you have to use the Dragon's Mind on this, right? You
Yeah.
can't really allow that to resolve.
They know where the Dragon Mind is anyways, right? So basically you get the option of like, hey, do I take the 2,500 to save Mother Trap, which is usually a yes. And we're going to be seeing it being activated here. So that negates it.
Yeah, negates the Twin Twisters.
That gets banished now because it came back from the graveyard. David will take 2 to 2/5.
Yeah.
But I think he'll be gladly take that trade, right? That's the great 2-for-1.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good trade-off, but the more and more I think about this now, the issue with both Dragon's Minds being in the graveyard is that's going to be like what you won't be able to recycle the second copy and use the second copy as well. So like, kind of burn through quite a bit. We're going to start off with the Ectoplasmic Fortification again. I feel that this might be where we see Dynamiscus come into play, especially when we activate the Call of the Haunted to try and bring back the Pumpkin King.
Yeah, we already see one of the Call of the Haunted is in the grave. Jordan's list played 2 of them. So it's going to be interesting to see. That card that banishes all the monsters is Vortex of Time, which can be searched here by the effect of Stare, is really relevant because one of the coin flip effects is that it banishes all the monsters your opponent controls. And as we know, those Burning Abyss monsters want to hit the graveyard.
So this is quite important though with the Vortex of Time. So I think this is where David needs to have learnt from duel number 1 and know that it requires Call of the Haunted and a zombie monster. So where it's all possible, if you can take away that resource of that Call of the Haunted from your opponent, they won't be able to get the maximum advantage or even utilize the Vortex of Time as well.
Yeah. So Vortex of Time only can be activated when your opponent activates a normal quick play spell card effect or a monster effect. So if David chooses to like Dynamiscus, let's say like Dynamiscus, I call it the Haunted, Jordan wouldn't be able to activate the Vortex of Time.
Oh, you're very, very true, yeah.
And that's something that like, if he recognized it during game 1, he could have known now. But it's one of those really hard things about Genesys. Like, this is not a scenario he's comfortable in. So you gotta learn from the information you gather as you play the games. So you're gonna see the Call of the Haunted be activated here, targeting the Pumpkin.
Yeah, I feel we need to. We definitely interact where possible.
Yeah. Oh, the Fiend Grieving. It's pretty good.
Oh, okay.
The one thing with the Fiend Grieving is that it will not remove the Call of the Haunted, so it's still gonna stay on the field.
Yeah.
But it's a good value trade in the sense that like you shuffle the target back and you're able to send one of your monsters. I believe the Call of the Haunted is gonna stay on the field. Yeah, because it basically it didn't resolve fully, but it's a continuous trap, so it has no reason to go to the graveyard. So it just
stays
exists.
There, takes up that space. I mean, that's not the worst for Jordan if they've opened up the Apophis, because that gives them a guarantee negation.
It's also good for Vortex of Time, right?
Yeah.
Because it's setting it up, which might be one of the outs here for them.
Yeah, so David's just deciding what card they want to send here. Is it going to go for another graph?
Alpha
Okay.
graph, yeah, just generate like more advantage, right? Like that's how Burning Abyss is. Your traps trade with their cards. Your monsters keep generating value each turn.
Yeah, I think we... What Burning Abyss would you bring out on this one? What graveyard effect would you want?
I think Cowcub could be
Yeah.
relevant here, because then if you get a way of like getting rid of your own Cowcub during Jordan's turn, you get to return one of the spells and traps before they get activated.
Ooh, taking trip down memory lane, going for a Rubik.
Ooh. So I remember when Rubik got released because it's from the second set. It's the next Challenger? I don't remember the name.
The new Challengers.
The new Challengers, yeah. And that card was always basically Burning Abyss had synchros now, so you're able to usually use it to go into Virgil.
Yeah, which is played by David here as well, and that's a good start actually. Getting down to the man with the mark.
Yeah, so
this will get us the Swamp Deity, the Apophis the Serpent, and the Swamp Deity.
Yeah.
Setting up with a double target negation.
Yeah.
I still feel that David might have enough along his spell and trap zones here to kind of weather that storm.
Yeah, Burning Abyss really predates on decks that are slow, because when you give it time, you basically got to trigger your graph 3 times. You get to trigger your Seer 3 times, right? And decks containing trap cards like Jordan's deck are not known for being very explosive.
Yeah.
So we're going to be without the Pumpkin engine resolving, I don't believe they have a way of getting into Wallow, which would be one of the good answers to the Burning Abyss monsters in the field.
Yeah, I suppose one thing you might want to question and keep an eye on with Genesys as well is, because you're going to be facing decks that are a little bit more uncommon,
yeah,
you might need to be a bit better, like keep an eye on their time management as well. I mean, we still have plenty of time, 15 minutes left on the clock, but at a certain point, you might want to be considering going into game number 3, especially if you are on the losing side of game number 2, because you're going to want to play to your advantage of being able to go first, and I think that's exactly what Jordan's doing here. Yeah.
So the Dynamiscus interacts with. So
correct. Yeah. I mean, it'll be quite good against the Apophis side of the deck in general.
Yeah.
But I think we're about to see exactly what here. So we've got the stare of the snake hair. So this is one of the first searches off the back of this. So very, very good on that one. Going to be able to kind of utilize on that one, go for the fortification. We're also going to go for the Anubis as well. So there's your double surge. That's where you would kind of wish that Droll and Lockbird would go. So now we're going to be able to kind of keep pushing forward on here. We've got both access to both our engines here, which is going to be very, very important. And then also being able to kind of utilize a little bit more, going directly into the Pumpkin of the Grave Ghosts. It just shows the consistency of this deck. Like, you're playing 3 copies of Stare of the Snake Hair, 3 Ectoplasmic Fortification, and then 3 Pumpkin, the King of Grave Ghosts. So you've got 9 routes to be able to get to your Pumpkin side of this deck. And then you've got 3 Man with the Mark, 3 Treasures of the King, and then 3 Anubis the Last Judge. So again, the exact same balance to access both sides of your engines.
And we see here, because they might be able to go into Wallow again. It's interesting because they ended up summoning Wallow game 1 without the knowledge it's Burning Abyss. I think now you know it's Burning Abyss, you have even more incentive to make it. But now we get to see a very explosive turn 1 with both the Pumpkin engine and the Man of the Mark.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like the max potential of what Odeon Pumpkin want to be doing. Is we're going to be able to, exactly like we've already mentioned, so Wallow is going to be great disruptor for the Burning Abyss strategy in general, but now the Man with the Mark is also going to be able to set up destruction protection and going to be working its way into the Apophis Swamp Deity, Circuit, Temple of the Kings. You're going to have pretty much everything you could ask for right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of interaction, and as we established, Burning Abyss is a deck that needs its time. It's not a very explosive deck, and as you see in game 1, it can struggle if your normal summon gets interacted with, if there's a Tour Guide or a Fiendish Rhino Warrior. So let's see how David is planning to navigate this here, and how many interrupts Jordan's actually going to end up on.
Yeah, so this is also quite another interesting one with Genesys as well, that I feel that you have a bit more space with points allocations to make to utilize more field breakers. So even though Jordan is able to kind of build this field relatively uninteractive or interacted with, you still need to keep that in the back of the mind that there could be some field breakers coming from David here, which is why you're probably looking to ideally go for that Wallow, but then also try and back it up with maybe 2 of the Swamp Deities if you can.
Yeah, I guess the Swamp Deities are really strong in this format because it's a format that has less ways of interacting with spells and traps, but the Man of the Mark / Apophis engine kind of gets to do it by inside, because you always have a way of outing a card like the Illusion Gate, which you mentioned.
I think Illusion Gate would be pretty great right about now. I mean, Harpy's Feather Dusters, Lightning Storms, cards along those levels.
Twin Twister, discard a BA, is a classic play from back in the day. So we're going to see here, first action activating the Apophis trap to then set the other trap, which is the
Swamp Deity. Yep. It looks like David did draw Needle Seeding for turn, so we kind of pre-mentioned that one. This could be a very good card that you would have kept in to try and disrupt this field. But once that Swamp Deity gets put into play, it does become a little bit tricky and tasking.
Maybe one of the win conditions is you try to force the Swamp Deity during David's turn, and then when it comes back to Jordan, you go like, ha, Needle Sealing. And then we establish that again. Yeah.
I mean, Needle Seeing is like a booby trap for that sense anyway. Starting off with Rubik, not the worst to go with.
Yeah, Rubik's a really good one to special because it does give you the pressure of going to Virgil.
Yeah.
And Virgil's a card that's hard to interact with because if Virgil gets sent to the graveyard, you draw a card.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a special summon of a Skarm as well. So this is a good old Burning Abyss thing, which is just presenting a question like, hey, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And you are threatening Zeus here, which is not something that Burning Abyss used to do back in the day.
Yeah.
But you can just put 2 level 3s together, attack with a monster like Fortune Tune.
Yeah.
Put a Dragon's... is it Dragon's Gate?
Dragon's Gate, yeah.
It's kind of like the New Age Downer Magician. And then you do a Zeus on top. So let's see what David's plan is here.
I feel like I'd probably go Dante because you could still like threaten the mills and everything.
Yeah, that's
so you just wouldn't get the attack increase for Dante.
It's one of the things that he might want to have like 4 materials under his Zeus.
Yeah.
Because then it allows the Zeus to activate twice. So if the Apophis gets chained, you get to chain the Zeus again.
Ooh, okay.
Farfa's really relevant here, yeah.
So Backjack, unfortunate on the Skarm because we revealed it to special summon.
Yeah.
But the Farfar target banish can be quite important here, and then the Backjack can also be quite effective. You've still got the Wallow to kind of think about.
I assume that Farfa's probably trading this Wallow, right?
Yeah.
Like the Farfa kind of forces. If anything, it's actually not bad that he hit another Skarm, because what might end up happening is that the Wallow gets chained here to get rid of a Skarm.
Yeah.
But now we have another Skarm that's under the Dante, I assume.
Yeah.
And that means we're going to be able to get the search in the end phase. So the Wallow does get activated here. I think they're just checking with the judge to see what's happening.
Yeah, I feel the other important thing here as well is that David hasn't had to use his normal summon like previous. So in duel number 1, he had to use his Tour Guide, and the Tour Guide was then interacted with instantly with an infinite impermanence. Whereas now, I think we know all of the spells and traps alongside Jordan's zones. So it looks like Wallow is putting the Farfar back into the deck.
Yeah, that makes sense. I assume Farfa's going to resolve now? Finish it?
So Dante would have excavated. Excavator's cost.
Is his cost? Yeah. Oh, maybe they used it before. Oh, is he a Schoolmeister here?
Schoolmeister on the Backjack, very important.
Schoolmeister is a card that's gaining a lot of popularity in Genesis after the points update to D-Crow.
Yes.
And Schoolmeister is really good in this matchup as well.
Yeah.
As a way of just interacting with like any of the Burning Abyss effects.
It kind of seems like David couldn't have picked a worse matchup for duel number 1.
Yeah.
But the scores are still tied at 1-1. Kind of looking at that Dante now, you haven't really achieved what you ideally wanted to, which is probably bait out that Apophis the Swamp Deity to bait out the negation. I feel that Dragon's Gate is definitely looking a little bit more appealing here. How threatening that Dragon's Gate will be. And one very important thing is that we do have the Apophis the Serpent is currently in defense position. So you can, of course, attack with a monster. That would attack with the Xyz monster that you need to, and then you'll be able to go into your Zeus. But the Zeus will probably get instantly met with that Apophis, the Swamp Deity.
Yeah, so we see just attacking with the Dante into the Apophis. Oh, that is the trap though, right? Because the Apophis, the Swamp Deity, needs another trap to be able to negate.
Correct.
So in case that this got removed, you would...
So you still have the Call of the Haunted as well?
Oh, the Call of the Haunted counts, yeah, of course.
Counts, yeah.
Also, I think they are pointing to a field spell, so I wonder if that has any effect to modify. Because it seems like the Dante was not successful in attacking over the...
Trap code. Yeah, I believe the field spell stops them being destroyed by battle and card effects as long as they have... I think it's Man with a Mark.
Oh, and they also have the Wallow boost, right? Because the Wallow boosts all the
Correct.
monsters. So we're gonna see the Zeus being summoned here.
I feel this is
materials.
instantly.
Yeah, this card is not resolving here. That's so you see this the
Swamp Deity.
Yeah. And now from Jordan's point of view, just gotta be aware of time, right? It's one of those scenarios where you do have a lot of control over the game. You just want to make sure that you can get your battle phase and establish 8,000 points of damage. That it might be hard with a needle ceiling though.
Yeah, I think Needle Seeing can make this very, very awkward, especially if there isn't a second Swamp Deity set there ready to go. But even then, the other thing you need to take into account is that Zeus is a big boy.
Yeah.
Zeus isn't very easily kind of dealt with either.
I guess the Wallow really helps us here, right? Because the Wallow is a way of making a monster that's bigger than the Zeus.
Yeah.
Because Burning Abyss loves to fill the graveyard, which makes the Wallow buff all your monsters.
I feel that this is very well kind of premeditated from yourself as well. That this Needle Ceiling, if it is a Needle Ceiling by chance, it could be a Fiend Griffin. But if that is a Needle Ceiling, that could be the game-changing card.
Yeah, it's interesting here from David's perspective. So he did it different than game one. He recognized he had to go to Zeus first, and now he's committed to finish Rhino Warrior to play after the Zeus as a way of protecting his Burning Abyss monsters from destroying themselves. So then he gets to force the Snake Deity and now play main phase 2. Which I guess playing main phase 2 might just be setting a lot of cards in main phase 2.
I think that's exactly what we're going to see, that there is still one more monster in David's hand. Obviously, we're not going to be revealing no Burning Abyss because we do have spells and traps there, but I'm waiting for what I feel is going to come. I would wait for the battle phase just so you can kind of play around the Swamp Deity.
Yeah, it seems to be waiting here.
Ectoplasmic Fortification. Just trying to find that one.
We've been reading a lot of cards this game.
Yeah, we have. There we go.
There we go.
So, yeah, so this one is going to give all zombie monsters we control 400 attack. And then you get to draw cards equal to the number of Call of the Haunted you currently control, which would be 1. So it's a nice 1-for-1 trade.
It's like an upstart goblin with a good upside, right?
Yeah, because you're obviously going to increase your Wallow. Just looking at the Fiendish Rhino, it's only other Fiend monsters can't be destroyed by battle or card effect.
Yeah.
So Fiendish Rhino can very easily be dealt with here.
You do need to be aware of the Zeus effect, that if a monster gets destroyed, a card control gets destroyed or a monster control gets destroyed,
card you control
you get to attach a card from your deck or extra deck to Zeus, and that's pretty relevant in this deck because it would be allow
attach Dante, yeah?
Yeah, attach a Dante. Yeah. It can be deck as well, right?
Yeah,
so you can attach like a graph, and then this graph floats into a Seer, and this Seer floats into a Dante.
All the way back
so you need to be aware to not let this thing trigger. So if you try to destroy like a spell and trap here with the effect of the fusion monster, you'd kind of give David more resources and complicate this game state, which is already complicated.
It needs to be more complicated, exactly that. Let me just read. So the Treasures of the King, we still got Odeon. I think Odeon, the Needle Ceilings is the one that I'm a little bit concerned about for Jordan on this one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the exact protection on the Man with the Mark. So the Man will mark. So while you control Temple of the Kings, this card and Apophis monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects.
Is that an Apophis monster? The fusion?
I believe it is. Yeah, I think it's like Apophis, Vision of the Apophis.
Okay.
There it is.
Yeah.
Divine Serpent Apophis. So
I see.
as it currently stands. Oh, okay. So we've got the Dynamiscus, and that's just going to be met directly with the Verdict of Anubis.
Yeah, that's from Jordan's side deck.
Yeah.
Which is basically like a counter, an Anubis counter trap.
Yeah. Which I think is quite important because that would have tried to deal with one of the Apophis monsters. I feel it's going to be a bit tricky here to complete the damage. Because, I mean, you can recycle the Apophis monsters, both the Apophis trap cards, the Serpent and the Swamp Deity. The Needle Ceiling would come into play, and I think it's really going to come down to whether David remembers the Treasures of the King.
Yeah, the Verdict of Anubis does allow to destroy all the monsters and then do half the damage of the destroyed monsters. That's gonna be like 2,000 damage-ish. Yeah. Between like the Zeus and the Fiendish Rhino Warrior. But the Burning Abyss stickiness is coming out here, right? Like this Fiendish Rhino Warrior is about to trigger. It's gonna summon a graph, and the graph's gonna summon us here. Yeah. Burning Abyss never dies.
I mean, David has probably got the 2 perfect trap cards set as well. I feel that this is because. Exactly that. The stickiness is going to be invaluable here. So just trying to dictate the plays we've got here. We've got only a minute left. I feel so. Graph, Seer. Needle, Sealing, Sear, bring back Dante.
The Wallow gets to shuffle. Oh, but the Wallow won't survive, right? Because the Wallow is not going to be protected. It's not an Apophis monster.
Yeah.
We do have one back row from Jordan. I don't know if you know what it is.
It's the Vortex of
Oh,
Time.
there's a Vortex of Time here. Okay. So that's going to basically change the effect of the graph.
Correct.
And it might mean they have to banish a monster they control.
Yeah, I feel that you probably take that. You probably maybe banish the Wallow.
Just banish. Oh, the mess. Oh, but there's not 4 monsters anymore for Needle Sealing, right?
Yeah, no, that's it. So there's no more protection, but there's not 4 monsters. But then if David with the Fiend Griefin can now get 2 more monsters on the field.
He can get 1 monster. I think he can send a Seer, right? So, but the Seer can get negated by the Wallow.
Yeah.
Not negated, but it's like the Seer would like target a monster and then
tries to bring back. Yeah, I think with 12 seconds left of the clock, this isn't gonna...
well, if we enter the battle phase, I think we actually might have this.
What have we got on the field?
I don't know if we're in the main phase now.
Yeah, Wallow would be very, very strong here.
Yeah, because the Wallow's really big and makes the other ones really big. Oh, are they out of time?
That's a shame.
That's a shame.